Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Lyon. I'm your new hard surface modeling TA. I just wanted to give you guys a quick introduction to myself. For those that don't know me, I am a senior here at Becker. I'll be graduating this May. I've been using ZBrush for the last year and a half or so, and I've taken three or four of Billy Parker's courses before this, the last 3 semesters. So he was asking me to jump aboard, lend a hand instructionally wise to give more insight into the topics that we're learning, as well as be able to give you guys a more hands-on approach, as I'm going to be on the campus or available to get on campus most days during the week. I'll be putting my contact information at the end of this video, so you guys will be able to text or email me whenever you want to, and we can set up a time or a place to meet on campus, that is. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into the topic for the day, try to make this short and sweet. We're going to be going more into insert brushes along curves to achieve details and effects that we want to. So what we have here is a nice little tube that I've created out of insert mesh, similar to how Billy made his chain, but this is going to adhere more to our sci-fi topic. So what we're going to do is start right on in with the base of this mesh. The reason I'm going more specifically into this topic is so that I can show you what you can do for your helmet using these insert meshes. Let's go ahead and just bring up a new poly cylinder and press F to frame that thing. First off, I want this to be a little more high poly than it is right now. So I'm going to go down to initialize before I make it into a poly mesh, and I'm just going to increase the H divide. No, I'm sorry, not the H divide, the V divide, just the vertical subdivisions, to about 24 to 26 or so. Okay, I'm going to make a poly mesh 3D from there, making sure that I'm in perspective mode so that I don't get a skewed perspective when I do this masking. I'm just going to take and make a mask like this. Actually, I want it to be symmetrical, so I'm going to go into my transform menu, activate symmetry, and turn on Y symmetry instead of X. This way, we got a nice symmetrical effect with our mask. Okay, so I'd say I'm happy with that. From here, I'm going to reverse my mask, and I'm going to take and go into my deformation menu, turning off the Y on my size because I want this to scale in, not up or down. I'm just going to slide this down just a little bit, right about there. So what this will achieve is just a small tube, kind of textured tube that looks like it could be flexible. Okay, so as we saw in the video this week, I'm just going to go and make it a new insert mesh, making sure that it's A, oriented in the way that I want to, and B, only one poly group. Going back to our helmet, frame this. Let's see where we could plot a new tube on this. Let's go ahead and just take off my front face mask. You know, a spooky little skull, kind of ballistic shell underneath the actual face mask. And I think I'm going to put a new wire on this optical device he's got here in his eyeball. So, as we saw again in the video, I'm just going to make sure that I have my insert mesh on, and then I'm going to go over to curve and turn curve mode on. Notice, I guess I sort of skipped this, I have a custom setup. I like to keep all the menus that I use often on my side here, so I'm just going to take the ones I'm going to be using for this video off for now. You can find them all up here, no matter if you tear them off or not, which this one is stroke. Stroke has your curve functions, your curve modifiers. I'm just going to take this, tear this off, and put it on my side. I'm also going to be using the brush menu, so I'm going to take and preemptively tear this brush menu off and put it on the side as well. I'm just going to collapse that for now. So if we take and use the curve right now, without doing anything to it, we're just going to draw it along the side of the face. Oops. I don't think I'm on the right mesh. I'm going to hold Alt and tap on my face mask. There we go. That switches the active subtool to that subtool. So I'm just going to draw along that curve. A little bit small, and also you can see that there are gaps, just complete gaps in the mesh right there. This can be remedied in a few ways. I'm going to show you one of them in just a second. But I would also like to point out that notice that my size can be updated actively. If I just increase my brush size while not on the hovering over the curve, I can just tap the curve, increase the size. And again, make it really small. Do the same thing. Make about, I'd say about that size. Alright, and as long as I still have this line denoting where my curve is, I'm going to go into close out stroke, open up brush, and go down to modifiers. Modifiers is where we're going to find these 3 extra options that are going to make the curve look a lot more cohesive. So I'm going to turn on weld points, I'm going to turn on stretch, I'm going to turn on overlap. To about 2, I'd say. That usually works for me. And just like with the size, I'm going to update my curve by tapping it. Notice already it's closed up all the gaps. It's made one nice even tube. It flows well. There's no noticeable gaps in it. Maybe right there, but nothing too crazy. Nothing that we can't get past. So if I'm happy with this curve, all I'm going to do is go back to my stroke menu, and I'm going to go to curve functions and delete this curve. So moving on from there, what I want is something similar to this one right here, but I want this to be drooping right here. Now notice if I start in on my eye socket and I just draw it out, get a really funky effect because the curve will stick to the mesh, and I don't want that. It's really messy. So the best way I've found to remedy this is it's a little unorthodox, we'll say, but I'm just going to solo out the one object by clicking this, making sure it's the active subtool first off, and clicking this option over here, solo dynamic, not dynamic, just solo. I'm going to approximate my curve shape by starting on the very edge of one of these objects. I'm just going like I think it's going to be that shape. Doesn't need to be connected to anything. And this little messy bit, that's totally fine because we can hide that. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger too. Okay, so I think that this right here, from here to here, can probably bridge this gap. Let's try that out. I'm going to go ahead and delete my curve. Going to use the transpose tool, rotate this a little bit. Transpose move, and boom. Got something kind of close to what I want. From here, all we got to do is use the move tool. Now, again, this is after the curve has been deleted. I'm going to use the move tool. I'm going to start gently. I don't want to deform it too much. Start gently, just guiding this down into where I want it to be positioned. It's getting a little bit scrunched there. I'll move this down. Then I'll move this down. There we go. A little bit better. Okay, so say we're happy with this. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily happy with this. Not for the lack of look. I like the way that the wire is now hanging. It gives a little bit of the feel of construction, so it wasn't just kind of plopped on there, or the helmet was created by somebody or someone. But what I don't necessarily like about it is the fact that there's no facets on these. Neither of these actually have facets. There's nothing that connects them. They just kind of shove into the mesh. And that's another thing that we can do with insert mesh. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to hold Control Shift. I'm going to go over to Split in the Subtool menu. I'm going to do Split Hidden. Now, turning off Solo, you can notice that both over here we have the wire and we have the optical nerve that are both different subtools. In doing so, I've allowed myself to use more insert meshes in a more straightforward and easy manner. So I'm going to go over to transparency, turn transparency on. Now I want something to facet the tube to the rest of this eye. I'm going to go into my insert meshes, going to go B, I, and then we'll go with the IMM modeling kit. I think this one is the one that has the most tools to it. I'm going to tap M, bring up my menu. Yep, this is the one. And let's see, what would work for us? I think something like this would work. Now all I'm going to do is, because I have transparency on, I can move my brush right on through that, as opposed to not having it on. I'd have to kind of finagle my way in there. I'm going to keep transparency on. I'm just going to draw out a small facet like that. And already, without doing any additional stuff to it, you can see that it's starting to look like that tube should be there. You know, it's held there by some way. I'm just going to take my transpose line from there and move this back a little bit. You know, we want to move it into the right position to make it look like it's fitted. And boom, you already have one side of it that looks like it's supposed to be there. So, I'm going to mask that off. I'm going to go back into transparency using the same exact insert mesh. I'm just going to go draw this out a little bit, making sure that I still have mask on, by the way. Rotate that into place, maybe move it back a little bit, and I'll say I'm happy with that. So, with just a quick couple steps, we've made a insert mesh, we've applied it to a curve, put it on our object, and we've also fastened it in place with something to make it look like it should be there, so that it's not just kind of shoved into our mesh. So that's going to do it for the day. I encourage you to feel free to use this kind of style of tube. I encourage you to explore with what you can do with these insert meshes. You can make anything from a tube to a chain link to braided cord or braided rope or anything of that sort. If you want to make something like the Predator dreadlocks to hang off the back of your helmet, you know, feel free to do that. You can do so by just modifying different meshes. So have fun with it, and until next time, I will see you guys later.